Hi, it's me, Dave Crane. How are you? I should say happy Thanksgiving to everybody as well, and I hope you've been well and you're doing well and you're enjoying some kind of semblance of love distant from your family. If you've got everyone together in one place, it's not as safe as you think it is, as you've probably been aware. But anyway, it's your choice. I just want to say that collectively around the world, lots of people are getting together, and that's why I'm bringing you this show. Today's show, very different from what I normally talk about. No, it's not. It's exactly the same as I always talk about. It's all about this. Making you money, making you opportunities to go out and do stuff. I'm going to say out, I mean not moving at all, not leaving your house, doing it from inside the house, but being able to broadcast. Today is very special. And by the way, we're broadcasting out to Twitch, to Facebook, to LinkedIn, to Periscope, to Twitter, and to something else, which I've got, YouTube. There you go. YouTube's all going up there today. So today's show is all about how you can create this incredible relationship with the outside world just by very simply getting onto your laptop and making a relationship broadcast like this. See? Very simple. And that's me and Jack Canfield, and you'll see the interview, part of the interview with myself and Jack Canfield later on today. So, how do you become a talk show host? How do you create your own TV show? Now, you're saying to me, Dave, you're not a talk show host, you're just a You're just a host. You're not got a talk show. It's the next thing that's coming. I can promise you. It's something I've been building towards. This is episode 81 of my show, Speak on Stage. It's true. And thank you for helping me and being there for me and holding my hand and interacting. And please make sure you do, by the way, comments, thoughts, shares, likes, subscriptions, especially on YouTube. Very well appreciated. And I'll still be here to share really cool ideas with you as long as you're here to watch the shows. So, I created this show really to help people understand the fact that speaking's super important, and that's what I'm going to be talking to Jack Canfield about. Some people think just because we're not working on stage and therefore everything's disappeared from the food chain and there are no gigs and there are no things, but that's not true at all. In fact, I'm doing a huge event in about a week and a half's time, which is hosting at GITEX, which is just an incredible venue, an incredible conference, all about people in the IT world. And it's something you should really consider about where you are and what you do. When things get over and when you need to go out and start doing stuff properly, especially if you're in any kind of business, are you going to try and pick up where you left off? Or are you going to say, right, I've been in contact with you all the way through, let's now do some face-to-face business? Well, for many people, you can't do that. In most cases, I just realized I've only been working off one camera, so I go like that, and suddenly Dave's here again. Well, hey, who could have imagined? For many people, the biggest challenge is the fact that you haven't been doing stuff, and so you hope people will go, yeah, we've been waiting for you. Thanks for bringing the pizza around, or whatever it is you do for a living. But the problem is the world's been moving on, and it's been moving around the gap that you left. And to the point where maybe it doesn't think about you anymore unless you stay in contact, actually make sure that everybody knows who you are and what it is that you do. So what we're going to do is do a deep dive into how to create your own TV show like this. And I'm going to give you a snapshot into how people script shows like this. I'm going to share with you exactly what you need to do to be behind the scenes as well. And also, I'm going to give you a sneaky peek at two particular areas. How to be really funny, and I'm not really funny, but how jokes get written for late night talk show hosts. And also how it feels to be behind the scenes of Seth Meyers' show. And I really do like Seth Meyers. I think it's brilliant. It's really funny. He does one particular point, which is, I forgot what it's called now, but it's a really good one, a closer look, that's what it is. A closer look at politics and so on. Now the thing is, the reason that I've done this show is I didn't want to be a late night talk show host. I didn't want to go down and compare to Trevor Noah, Stephen Colbert and all the rest of it, because I knew that, first of all, I don't have a script writing team. I don't have a production team. I haven't got access, well, I've got reasonable access to some celebrities, but it just seemed a niche that, without wanting to go down the politics route, I didn't want to talk about politics. It's not that I don't think about politics. I think about politics quite a lot. But what it is I don't want to dwell on it to a point where I split people's opinion. If I stay in my lane and talk about speaking on stage and being effective and growing your business and being successful, then I can be responsible for helping people, whatever their political views are, whatever their religious views are, they can still learn a lot from me as long as they like looking at my face. Never do that again. There's no money involved in your face, Dave. Talking about that, funnily enough, I was looking through, because I'm going to be celebrating soon 50 years of being in entertainment, and I know what you're thinking. 50 years? Are you kidding me? You're only like 35 with a bit of a You know, a bit of a Morgan Freeman going on there, and I know you're saying it, and I know for all the right reasons, but I don't believe you really mean it. I've been in entertainment now for about 50 years, and I will do a breakdown of what I've done to get here and other tips and tricks and techniques I've used over the years, and I've done everything. But one of the things I've never shared with you is something I was trying to find evidence for, and I couldn't find any, which is why I'm going to tell you what I used to do. When I worked for the BBC, and there's evidence about me working for the BBC, so that's not a real surprise. So I worked for the BBC in Cleveland, the Northeast, and what I used to do is I was a roving reporter, so I would go and I'd do a couple of news pieces all the way through the day, and I'd give them into either news programs or into the daily programs, and I'd be out in a BBC-branded car with a microphone, either going live into the shows or recording stuff and bringing it back. So one of the things I was given to cover was the formation in Redcar, which is a town where I grew up, of a Chippendales dance group. Now, bear with me because you won't believe me, but bear with me because it's a true story. So, there's a Chippendales dance group, and there's a guy called Andy Kay who was putting them all together. So, Andy was a sandwich maker. Not that, I mean, in the days when you deliver sandwiches to people and we go, oh, thank you very much, and they'd eat them. They wouldn't go, I've got to sanitize, I've got to leave it out in the rain, put it in a shower, leave it in a box, I'll come back to it tomorrow, great, thanks for the sandwich, oh, you've gone. It's not that. So, he was putting together this group of people. Now, who's a big bodybuilder and who's a good-looking fella, and it was the auditions for people to join the Chippendales. Now, you probably have no idea what the Chippendales are at all, which is what I'm going to share with you. And I have no pictures to back this up, so you just have to believe my story and believe that once upon a time, I was a good-looking guy. In fact, I'll prove it to you, because once upon a time, I wasn't like this. I was more like, well, doesn't really show it here, but I was a different kind of thing going on. So think Terence Trent D'Arby, Milli Vanilli, without all the fake stuff going on. Mind you, Terence wasn't fake, he was very cool. Called Sananda Maltreya nowadays, and he's living in Italy. He's married to a supermodel, and he's still making cool music, but nobody cares anymore, because his second album was so bad. Third album was brilliant, but neither Flesh nor Fish was just a waste of our time. But like Prince's second album, but he came back, and then went. Okay, so I went along as a news reporter to interview Andy and just say what kind of person could join your dance group. Now, if you don't know who Chippendales are, they were an American phenomenon. They still kind of do their thing, or they did before lockdown. And it was like an answer to female exotic dancers. They got male dancers who are bodybuilders and dancers, got them in a bow tie and a pair of black tuxedo trousers and maybe a tuxedo top with no shirt on, and they'd basically dance for hen nights, girls' events. And because they're super good looking, you'd have a singer, you'd have an MC, you'd have the guys who would do lots of backflips and stuff like that, the acrobatic guys, and they'd pose a lot and they'd be all really good looking models and stuff. So I was there interviewing Andy. What are you looking for? Well, we're looking for this. I said, fine, that's really fascinating. And so the next thing he did was he turned around to me and said, Dave, would you like to be in the group? And the group was called Male Train, M-A-L-E Train. And you can Google it, there are no pictures, because it was about 30 years ago. So, got you there. So, I went, well, things I work for the BBC, I can't do this. It'd be really embarrassing for the BBC. And they'd probably get rid of me if they thought I was like, I don't know if you've ever seen the film Flashdance. You probably haven't, it's long before your time. It's probably well due for an overmake or makeover or remake. But Flashdance was about this woman who was a dancer on a nighttime, but a spot welder during the day, which is pretty normal. That's a pretty normal mix of things. It was just one of those movies. Anyway, so I was a news reporter during the day, and on a nighttime, not every night, but some nights I'd go out with this dance group. And we did gigs all across the UK. I am not joking, we went everywhere. We did a tour of Scotland, we did a lot of stuff in Newcastle, we went down to sort of Sheffield and places like that. And there were 5 of us in the group. In fact, what happened was when the group got together and we started working, Andy was telling everybody what to do. So the group kicked him out. And we had a woman that came in who ran everybody. It sounds really sinister, it wasn't. I'll tell you what it was like. Imagine being a boy band. Imagine being asked to join Take That or One Direction or one of the K-pop groups. And you're going, this is a bit weird, but you know what? Let's just do it for fun. Let's see how it goes. That's what that was. So I had MC, and I wouldn't take my clothes off. I had a shirt. I didn't have a shirt on. I had jeans on and a leather jacket. That was me. But the rest of the guys would go on, but they would just go down to G-strings, just down to bathing costumes. And it was we'd have packed rooms full of people. And you don't believe I'm telling you this story, and I can tell you this because if nobody listens to me on this show, they'll never find out. There's no evidence on Google. The guys who I worked with haven't got anything on the Facebook about it. No pictures, no nothing. And I deliberately didn't carry any pictures with me when I left the UK to come to Dubai. So it's just your word against my word telling you this word, and you can use your imagination, but that's all you're going to get. So we went out in front of thousands of people doing these incredible gigs. And for about a year, we did this. And it was good fun. We even went on TV. And this is what brings me back to bring to this story, talking about TV. Because we went on TV and we were interviewed on a show called The Time, The Place, which is one of these mid-morning shows that you probably don't get anymore, but you did in the UK because it's very popular. So there was a guy called Mike Scott, I think it was. And the gig was all about hen nights. And hen night is a phrase that's given for when women have a celebration night, usually before they get married. So there's a stag night for the men, hen night for the women. Women would go along to a night where the girls could just have a party, have a laugh, maybe see some dancers, maybe see a comedian, and do things that they can only do one night off, and that's it, they never do it again. Don't know what it is, never asked, didn't go. But I did as a member of Male Train. So when we were asked about it, we had this incredible TV experience. So we're in this really big studio, and it's full of entertainers and women who organise events on hen nights. So there's drag queens, which is men dressed as women. There's comedians. There's all sorts of dance groups and pop stars, and us, Male Train, all wearing leather jackets trying to look hunky. Now the difference between me and the rest of Male Train was they were actually hunky. For me, I was wearing my jacket to try and buff it all out. But I mean, I didn't work out. I worked out about 3 times a week. But I had this kind of like, I wasn't fat, but I was a bit more like somebody who, like, you know, like a Sunday afternoon footballer, a Sunday morning footballer, who doesn't really take it that seriously, enjoys their time with their friends, just enjoys their stuff with the mates, but goes along in this kind of fit enough to move. That was me. And so I wasn't super fat, but I wasn't anything in comparison to the guys who had bodies that were built like, if you can imagine getting a sock and filling it with walnuts, that would be the Rock. They were like the Rock. Big, small versions of a Rock and Dave with his dreadlocks. Anyway, so we went on this TV show, and when the presenter was talking to all of us, I knew that as a spokesperson for the band, the group, I should say something. And I wanted to make it funny. I wanted to be something that people would laugh about at home. And I wanted to be something that we could take away, because we're never going to get a chance to go on this show again. We never probably were going to last as a group anyway, but we're just enjoying the moment. And it was just one of those vanity things. And before you say anything, I was probably about 24? 23, 24 when this happened. So there you go. When you were 23, 24, would you do stupid stuff? No? Well, I did. So we're asked that question. So what's it like being in a group that goes around, has women screaming at you, sometimes they're grabbing at you, and you're trying your best to entertain? Is it sleazy? Is it fun? And this is the kind of question that was thrown at us. And my answer was, Mike, some days you feel like a piece of meat and you wish people would respect you for your brain and not just your body. Can you believe I said that? What an idiot! So here we are, welcome back to Speak on Stage. I just had to get that off my chest. I may tell you another story about that when I do my breakdown of 50 years in entertainment, and I will do that in the next couple of weeks, certainly before end of, maybe New Year. I don't know. I'm building towards it. Maybe I'll combine it with 100 shows of Speak on Stage. Doesn't matter. Love your thoughts, love your comments. And if you Google Male Train, Dave Crane, BBC, nothing. I wasn't on the posters. I deliberately wasn't on any of the advertising purely because I didn't want it to be spotted at work. I remember to say, you're not a serious news journalist, are you? You're there dancing in front of all these chicks. So I didn't dance anyway. I just held the microphone and went, he's fit, and thank you very much and good night. That was all I did. Not much more than that. Honestly. I couldn't dance. Still can't. In fact, I hardly walk nowadays because I'm busy doing shows like this. So, today's show is all about how to create entertainment, but specifically about turning your own show out into the broadcasting world. because I've got some great interviews coming along. I will be converting this show into a talk show very soon. And I've got some guests that I'm lining up that will just blow your mind. Really high end. We've got Jack Canfield coming up later on in today's show. But they're all involved in the space, and they're all brilliant thought leaders. I'm not just going down LinkedIn or Facebook and going, hello, can you speak to me? Hello, are you there? Can you speak to me? These are quality guests. But the bottom line is, how do you fit in a world where people aren't going out? Some of the arts and entertainment and broadcasting is really challenged. And there's another thing I'm going to throw into this. There's a phrase I heard from talking to my dear friend Dov Baron, who is the host of the #1 in the world podcast for Fortune 500 companies. Really smart guy, really funny guy, comes from the north of England like me. So we were chatting away about this whole thing, and he was talking about the fact that amongst many people, they call Disney the Borg. Why the Borg? I'm going to get really geeky now. If you're a Star Trek fan, you've seen the Borg as this big square cube of a spaceship planet, and what they do is they assimilate everything. So we look around for planets, and we grab the planets and absorb them into the Borg. Grab them. And so the heroes of the Starship Enterprise try and fight the Borg all the time and get rid of them, but nothing fakes them. Because as soon as you hit them, then they learn to deal with that thing, and then you've got to get something else to beat them with. I'm very, very geeky by sharing this. But the point is that once upon a time, entertainment was all over the place. You could do something here, that'd be different from something there, something there. But what we've got now is, in the same way as Amazon is soaking up all the things that we get in shopping and killing shopping malls, in many ways Disney is buying up everything. Star Wars, Marvel, everything, and Pixar, and creating this multi monster of entertainment, but it all comes from there. Now, here's where the problem is. I'm not saying it with disrespect to Disney. What I'm saying is so much entertainment and comedy comes from creating something different to what everybody else is doing. So if everybody's doing it that way, you say there's a gap. I'm going to do something different over here. And you start off doing it for yourself on your own, and then it starts becoming a thing. And suddenly people say, you know what? This is so refreshing. I love what you do. So here's the thing. If you remember back to the 80s or 90s, you probably weren't around for those days, but all the music that used to come out is a direct reflection on the rebellion to it. So I used to love punk music. I used to love Sex Pistols. I used to love guitar music, which evolved into Britpop and Oasis and Blur and all that other stuff. But it was there because they didn't want to do all the manufactured pop music that everyone else was doing. It just like disco, which I do love. I love most music. But it came out the gap that was basically left because people were doing the same thing. Here's what I think. Excuse me, it's the air conditioning. And also I had a mosquito earlier, so I sprayed a place. And then I went, right, I've sprayed a place with mosquito spray. He's not going to come back in again. I've got to breathe it all in and I've got to talk. And so that was pretty stupid. So what I'm saying is ultimately we have an ability now, while there's a lockdown and entertainment being made, whilst also we have Disney and a handful of others absorbing all the big entertainment stuff, why aren't you starting your own entertainment show? Why don't you create your own talk show, your own TV show, your own broadcast, your own chat, your own podcast? You can do them all in one go like this. This is my 81st show, which means that I'm able to then turn around and get 81 podcasts and put them out and speak on stage. That's why I do about an hour every day when I do shows. So if everything's being bought by the Borg, that leaves a gap for just homegrown entertainment. This would be the equivalent of somebody with a guitar just playing in the middle of the street, and people walk past and throw money, and then some people like him and they get the chance to go onto a stage and they play somewhere, and then they build up a following and they start selling cassettes. Remember cassettes? Or CDs even? Or DVDs? Do you even remember them before stream? No? Well, this is a new genre. That's why I really believe that being able to speak is really important. Being able to be effective is the key to being able to move forward. So in a moment, we're going to take a big deep dive into the world of TV making so you can understand how to use that stuff to start creating your own broadcast. Before we do that, let me share with you what the show actually leads towards, which is the Industry Icon Program and also the Maya Mentorship Program for ladies. Let me illustrate this. The Industry Icon Program is all about your ability to then position yourself for your TV show, for your broadcast, for your social media and your personal branding to be the very best in your industry, and you don't have to go off on your own. You can do it within an organization and still be ultra effective, because a lot of the content that you need to be able to position yourself actually comes from them. Does that make sense? Yes or yes, says Tony Robbins, and not me. So with that, let's look at the Industry Icon program. Then we're going to enter how you make a TV show, and also my interview with Jack Canfield coming up shortly as well. So first of all, if you go to SpeakOnstage.com, you can do a free survey all about the things you need to know to be a very effective speaker. When you go to SpeakOnstage.com, you'll see this picture of me, and I can go like that. Hello, I can see up your nose. You need to shave it. It's too hairy, and that moustache is going up. You got a bald bit there, so you need to sort that out. I didn't really do that. That's me as well. This is me. Okay, anyway, so when you go there, you go to the top bit, and you can see it here where it says Industry Icon. My finger disappears. Industry Icon above me here. You click on that. That will take you to another page. And when you go to that page and scroll down, you'll see this. Just over here, where it says take the free survey, click on that, and you've got a 20-question survey all about what you need to be considering about being a more effective brand and getting yourself out there, marketing your business and yourself to grow to a bigger audience. We have about 2 years of this to happen, but I do believe after lockdown, the eyeballs that you'll get right now, just like when we start a new social media platform and the smart people start running towards it and doing stuff with it and they get massive numbers, TV shows, podcasts, this is the best time during lockdown to start broadcasting, because people will be at home, captive audiences. As soon as it's all clear and there's a vaccine and people go back to work, okay, work won't be the same as it was for a little while, and it will be hybrid. But one thing's for definite, people won't be as available to watch and pay attention to your content as they are right now. So that's what you need to do. When you're considering how this works as well, then also go through to have a look at the Industry Icon program. You get a copy of the free roadmap once you've taken a survey, and then you can set up a meeting with me, or you can go and get hold of our Speak On Stage program, which is very, very affordable, and also will teach you lots of different videos, how to be a great speaker, how to get over fear of public speaking, and all the things you had in your mind about creating content as well. If you want to work with me directly, then I can share with you how to do 1,000,001 things, and at the moment I'm coaching people all around the world. It's very exciting, and you could be one of them. So those are the different options that you have with joining me and being on the Industry Icon program. Meanwhile, let's now consider how you start your own TV show, and I will walk you through it step by step, and you can only get it with me on this show. Thank you for joining me. Love your thoughts, love your comments. This is Speak On Stage.
Getting a show from script to screen is a fast and furious process. Some crews make 13 episodes of scripted TV in the same amount of time it takes to make a single blockbuster movie. So, how do they do it? This process applies to all types of scripted TV shows, both dramas and comedies. But we're going to use an hour-long drama with a 13-episode season as an example. Let's say you're the showrunner. This is what the next year of your life is going to look like. First things first, you and the writers break the story, meaning you plot out the major moments of the season, and then you assign writers to break the story for each episode. After multiple drafts, a script around 45 pages is created. That's about 600 pages of material for the whole season. At this point, episodes are assigned to directors and directors of photography, who begin planning on their own. And then there's the art department. They're in charge of the whole look of the show. Let's say the show takes place in New York City in 1980. The art department researches the period so that everything as big as buildings and cars and as small as magazines and jewelry look realistic. Now, let's get shooting. To shoot 45 pages of material in about 8 days, you need a serious schedule. A traditional script isn't all that helpful to a crew, so first each scene is assigned a location, time of day, and actors. After all these factors are prioritized, the result is a document called a white schedule. Once shooting begins, every episode requires a table read. That's when the whole cast gets together and reads the script from beginning to end. At this point, the director works with the director of photography to correctly block all the actors. And every scene is shot from multiple angles. A 1-minute scene in a show could easily take a few hours to shoot. Now, you might not think your typical drama would have a lot of visual effects, but something as little as a TV playing in the background of a scene requires post-production work. Ever heard of the phrase, "we'll fix it in post"? Here we go. A post-production team is comprised of editors, sound designers, visual effects artists, and all of the assistants and coordinators that go along with them. Editors make the first cut of the episode and give it to the director. Then the director's cut goes to the showrunners. The showrunners give notes, create a producer's cut, and that goes to the studio, which then becomes the network cut. During this entire process, things like that TV with the green screen get pushed through visual effects. Once all of the edits are final, a color corrector and sound designer begin to work their magic. The dialogue needs to be cleaned up, sound effects put in, and the entire edit needs to be mixed. Okay, we're almost done. It's now several months after writing began, and the episode, fully mastered, gets service to broadcasters around the country. But the rest of the show isn't finished. Every episode is finalized just a few weeks, and sometimes just a few hours before it premieres.
So I know what you're thinking, you're saying, wow, Dave, how can I possibly do that? There's so many things involved, so much planning, so much scheduling. Here's the thing, how many people do you think are involved in the process of creating this show? One and a half. My daughter Maya helped me set it up in the very beginning by programming an iPad, which I don't use anymore because I've got a different system for doing it. But that's it. I create this show with videos of all the different jingles, of all the music, all the research. It's done by me. Is it perfect? No, but it's good enough for people to watch it as you're watching it right now. So what could you do for yourself in your own business? Doesn't have to be perfect. Doesn't even have to be the game that you just saw there. That particular business model is problematic right now because all it takes is for one bout of COVID on set and it disappears. You've got to have places sanitized, you've got to have social distancing, and if you write a script and everyone's learnt it all around the table and one of your key characters gets COVID and has to be moved away or put into lockdown or quarantine, what are you going to do? Show the whole thing without them being in it? Well, no, because if they've got it, the odds are everyone else has to go into quarantine as well. So until we actually get a change on that, these shows may or may not arrive back in the way that you want them to. Certainly with The Walking Dead, one of my favorite shows, they've decided that in the interim between the seasons, they've filmed almost completely solo episodes. One character, their backstory, and a couple of zombies they've got to kill, which means a lot of great acting just to get to flesh out who those people really are. Does that make it interesting? Kind of if you're a fan of a show, but nowhere near the kind of production qualities that you're going to be used to, even though the script writing will be fantastic. So that means that you doing what you do with a little bit of help from me and the examples that I'm going to show in this show, you can do anything and get people's eyeballs, their ears, and their interest and their finances invested in you. Next up, let's have a look at the jokes. How do you tell a joke? There's a system for it when it comes to those late night talk show hosts, and that's up next on Speak on Stage.
Disney's Hall of Presidents finally added a Donald Trump robot. He's really making an impact at Disney. Today, he deported Aladdin and he gave Scrooge McDuck a tax break.
Really?
How do late-night show writers come up with so many jokes?
He didn't want to win the presidency and was...
There is a method, and it's surprisingly mathematical. When you have to write over 100 topical jokes each day, there's no time to wait for inspiration to strike. You need a reliable algorithm. Most late-night jokes you hear on TV are written using a step-by-step process perfected to mass-produce punchlines rain or shine.
Then someone asked him about stakeholders, and Trump said, I believe the word is fork.
To understand the formula, we first need to review our comedy theory 101. From Aristotle to Freud to Jean Parrott, who wrote for Bob Hope, thinkers have been identifying and naming various triggers common to situations that make us laugh. Surprise. Incongruity.
I like turtles.
A feeling of superiority. Recognition.
That's what she said.
Embarrassment.
Pardon me.
Coincidence. The release of tension. The permission to misbehave. The list goes on. For our formula, we're going to start by focusing on just two. Number one, surprise. Simply put, people laugh when they're surprised. This is where we get the familiar setup punchline structure of a joke. Number 2, incongruity. People laugh when two things that seem very different are put together in a way that exposes a hidden similarity.
If you were a chick, who's the one guy you would sleep with? John Stamos. What?
For our setup, we can choose any story as long as it includes two different subjects that grab our audience's attention. We already have as the setup the news that Disney made a Trump robot.
Disney's Hall of Presidents finally added a Donald Trump robot.
So what about the punchline? To generate one of those, we just need to draw a surprising link between these two ideas. Here's what the pros do. We're going to free associate two lists of words and phrases that come to mind when we think of our two topics. Now we look for two items, one from each column, that have a logical connection that activates as many of our laugh triggers as possible. The idea of Trump deporting a fictional character like Aladdin
Get him the hell out of here.
is surprising. It triggers recognition of pop culture knowledge and gives Fallon's liberal audience a sense of superiority to the president because it makes him seem ridiculous and intolerant. Plus, making fun of authority is a socially sanctioned way to misbehave.
So much fun. I love it.
Now that we know that our joke will involve Trump deporting Aladdin, all we need to do is find a way to get there from our setup. There are many possibilities. A particularly reliable one is to ask who, what, where, why, when, how questions about the setup. In this case, what did Robot Trump do in Disney World does the trick.
Today, he deported Aladdin and he gave Scrooge McDuck a tax break.
And just like that, we have our joke. And yes, we got two jokes for the price of one. But how does each late night show manage to find its own angle on the exact same story?
That's right, Disney World's Hall of Presidents debuted an animatronic President Trump today, whereas Jeff Sessions will debut at the Country Bear Jamboree.
If your list is long enough, you'll find an original joke.
Very funny.
And now that you know how easy this joke writing is, it kind of makes sense why Jimmy Fallon can't stop smiling.
Isn't that fascinating? And if you've ever wondered how they do it, that's exactly how they do the joke. Somebody creates whole monologues of all this great content, add some visuals, add some pictures, add maybe some sequences for them to talk over, and some sound effects, and suddenly what you've got is this incredible monologue that's produced every night by a small group of people. So what's it like to produce that? How difficult is it to actually put all that stuff together? Well, the next video I'm going to share with you is behind the scenes of Seth Meyers. Now, Seth Meyers does a show that has an element called The Closer Look, where he does a really interesting, maybe 10, 12, maybe 15 minutes worth of content all about a certain subject, usually covering pop culture, the president, whoever that is, but it's been Trump the last couple of years, as you know, and stuff like Black Lives Matter and social, and he puts it all together, and it's really funny, but he puts his own stamp and his own personality on it. I'm not just saying he does that. All the presenters do it. Now, here's the thing I want you to remember. We're going to have a look at how Seth Meyers puts his show together in the old days. Each of those different guys may have a stand-up comedy background, but that only allows them to be able to work a bad night when nobody's clapping, nobody's cheering, nobody's laughing, because then they're used to actually just working on their own. So when they went into lockdown, they had to do it with no audience feedback, nothing, just talking to a camera. Is that easy? Well, yes and no. If you're a broadcaster, it's not too difficult. If you're a stand-up comedian, it's really hard. And you may have seen that some of them found a lot of challenges coping with it in the very beginning. And the shows were kind of ropey as you're wondering how you're going to do it. And even now, they've gone back to what's called a zoo crew format in radio, which is you get a couple of people around you, and the joke is all amongst them. If you want to talk about who did what last night, talk to the band. If you want to say about some idea that happened in the past, talk to your producer who's sitting there in front of a laptop writing so-called jokes for you, even though it's actually used as a prop in the show. Again, you don't need all that stuff, but what I want to do is show you that when you see behind the scenes of a show like Seth Meyers, those guys were working for him remotely. So we're sending in jokes and sending in all those bits and pieces, and his show is produced Not live, as live, maybe, but probably just recorded bits. And then post-production, we add all the extra stuff onto it. But there was a deadline, because these guys had to bring out 5 shows every single week, then have a break for a weekend. But I always love to look beside it and see what actually happens underneath the hood. And that's what you're going to do next. After that, by the way, I have a quick chat with Jack Canfield, America's #1 coach, an incredible thought leader, an incredible entertainer, and a credible speaker who'll be sharing about the importance of speaking as well as writing books and creating content if you want to be relevant nowadays. Don't miss that. But meanwhile, next up is behind the scenes of Seth Meyers on Speak on Stage.
If more than 5 people are looking at one TV, you know that something's happened and we're going to have to tear up our script.
Strike the things that are funny to me bit by bit.
Yeah. For some reason, news happens just coincidentally to break at like 5:30, 6 o'clock every day. I have had so many days where I'm literally sprinting down the hallway from our office at one end of the floor down here to like run into Seth's dressing room and discuss possibly adding some news that just broke at 6 o'clock.
This place is ridiculous. You know, we know as evidenced by today, halfway through the day tomorrow, something could happen. then you know you have to be ready to write that.
It's amazing how much things become old news over the course of just the day, getting ready to do a show at 6:30. For more on this, it's time for a closer look.
Closer Look happens at least 3 times a week. Sunday, I'll spend all day essentially writing Monday's Closer Look, which is usually a kind of review of the things that have happened in the past 48 hours. So around midday yesterday, I had already started writing something about Trump seemingly preparing to dismantle the Iran nuclear program.
The Iran deal is a terrible deal. We paid
when Trump's former personal doctor, Harold Bornstein, gave an interview saying that his office had been raided.
That's how I feel. Raped, frightened.
And so when that interview happened, I switched gears and started writing about that. Really just sort of salivated over the possibility of writing jokes about Harold Bornstein.
So there's this whole section I have where it's just like, I'm sorry, is this guy really a doctor? And then it's just a series of what he actually looks like based on what...
He looks like Donald Trump if Trump were in the witness protection program. He looks like that guy at the gym whose towel only goes 3/4 around.
It really is just a process of like attrition, almost of like a new thing happening that replaces an old thing, another new thing happening, like making room for that kind of thing.
Make sure the key switches to Trump. I don't know if it's still Trump in front of those army guys, because then you think he's rambling to them.
We have our rehearsal at 4:15, and we make changes and cuts, mainly cuts, based on the rehearsal that we do in the afternoon.
Do those last 3?
Gym towel's great.
Yeah.
Maybe we could just move the gym towel up early. There are so many disparate news events happening that are so head-spinning and mind-boggling, and they feel completely disconnected.
Really well, too.
My space here wasn't bad.
2 more?
How long was that?
Yeah. Just do 2 more. When all these random things happen, we try as much as possible to find like a through line that brings all this together. Most of the people, almost everyone who are in some way associated with Donald Trump, eventually seem to turn on him, or Trump turns on them.
Everyone who gets close to President Trump eventually turns on him. And
this week we've seen so many cases of that. Bornstein is his longtime doctor, was his doctor for 35 years.
You know, I might believe Trump didn't use Propecia if the doctor who allegedly gave it to him didn't have the exact same hair.
I think there's kind of an interesting through line with his inner circle, essentially like becoming fed up with Trump and the implications of that for Trump.
Seems to happen constantly. Rex Tillerson called him a moron. H.R. McMaster called him a dope. Betsy DeVos called him a hippopotamus, but only because that's how she thinks you say ignoramus. He does, like, bring in characters like a sitcom, so it's not like it's just Trump.
Just repeat. Now, they should be printing monologue right now, but monologue's coming down late today because someone's computer wasn't working, I think. Read Amber first, and then we'll do Closer Look. You guys can do Closer Look.
Just the end.
On the next line. So we're going to make the changes now. We're going to read everything with Seth in his dressing room. So if we make a little mistake, we'll catch it in there.
Okay, after we see...
When you get to do a show every day, it's such a luxury of you have so much real estate to fill, and you get to be a little bit less precious about the work. Betsy DeVos called him a hippopotamus. Please make that instead of a hand.
Yep.
The avalanche of news doesn't really let you think very hard about like what you've done that day.
You know, tomorrow I have to come in with another sketch, and at this place, you have tomorrow. You always have tomorrow.
I'm a germaphobe. Everyone knows I take regular showers, not regular.
As much as you do think to yourself on Sunday, I gotta go talk about Trump again on Monday, I wish I didn't, then he does stuff that's important and you want to talk about it because it's important. I mean, we do want to just make jokes about what's happening on any given day, and he just happens to be the thing that's happening on every given day.
So there's behind the scenes of Seth Meyers. I'm a huge fan of his work. But as you always appreciate from something like that, you can see that Seth Meyers has this huge stage show. When the doors open and he goes in, you can see what goes behind making it. Doing this, I'm talking to you. I've got my backdrop. I've got my cup of tea, or coffee as it is today. Cheers, I've got my videos. I've got all the bits and pieces. A script I make up as I go along, because I've been able to do it, and I can show you how to do that as well. But by and large, the bottom line is you can do it yourself. You don't have to be at that level of production. That has to be a world-beating show. You don't have to do that. The same as a podcast verse has been created out of people just saying, I want to say something. I don't want to do it like radio. I just want to do something that's become $1 billion industry. This is potentially as big, if not bigger, doing your own TV show. Next up, I'm going to talk about speaking, how important it is with a legend. One of the biggest names, the guy responsible for the Chicken Soup for the Soul books, for one of my favorite books of all time, The Success Principles. Next up on Speak on Stage, Jack Canfield. Now you and I are both public speakers. Go out and make an audience learn from the stage. How important would you say being able to become a public speaker is for anybody's success, especially when they want to become an author as well?
Well, if you want to become an author, it's critical. In today's world, you can't just write a book and throw it out there. It's very rare. Maybe 50 years ago you could do that, word of mouth would happen. There are now, just in the United States, 600,000 books a year published. Everybody has a computer. Everybody can self-publish. There's a million, what they call vanity presses. You can, self-publish yourself. You can put it on ebook Amazon as an ebook. So every psychologist who has 2 hours in a day when they don't have a patient is writing a book. Every coach is writing a book. So there's lots of books out there. A book, if it's good, doesn't necessarily mean it'll sell. What sells a book is someone selling the book. It's you giving a talk, it's you on an interview, it's you on a webinar, on a seminar, on a teleseminar. And so you've got to go out there and basically sell the message just enough so that people go, I want more. And so now they're going to buy your book. Learn internet marketing. Internet marketing is critical. You can sell a lot of books on the internet. We sell probably 60 or 80 countries that never would have got sold before. Will buy books, will come to seminars, listen to my webinars, listen to me online, that never would have done that before. But speaking, whether it's on the internet or whether it's in front of a group, is critical. As I was saying to the group tonight that I was doing a speech to, if you can only talk one-on-one with people, I can only make one sale in an hour perhaps. But if I can talk to 500 people, I might be able to sell 250 of those people the same product. It's much more leverageable if you can be a speaker.
So there we go. That's Jack Canfield, the incredible Jack Canfield, talking about the importance of speaking. And of course, that evolves into your book nowadays. Isn't it really your book? Your book is your book system, your coaching system, your online coaching book plan TV show is what you should be looking at. But if you're just interested in starting to get your name out there as an influencer, you might want to look at a number of different elements to put into your show. You might have a certain theme that you think is important as well. I'm going to share with you 10 talk show discussions now. And this comes from liveabout.com. Got some incredible stuff here all on that particular website. all about broadcasting, the history of talk shows and so on. Really interesting read. You should have a look at it. That's liveabout.com. So let's look at the type of shows that you could have recommended. First of all, movie shows, especially around the weekend opening of movies. Now, right now, there are very few movies coming out, which gives you a great opportunity to start building up a relationship with people, showing trailers for stuff that's upcoming, but also doing reviews of movies that people might not have seen that are rare, but I've got a sequel coming out now. Building rapport with people about your knowledge of movies. The great thing about doing movies is you sometimes get access to the big names when they're doing the junkets and basically going down and doing the rounds. You can go along and catch up with them. Or even now, there's a ton of movie stars at home with nothing going on. They can't go on TV shows, they've got nothing to promote, nothing to talk about, they're not filming, and they're bored, but they're desperate to be relevant. Great opportunity for you to start a show all about movies and get them to be interviewed for free on yours. All right then, number 2, TV shows during sweeps. That means that sweeps are when we've got a new TV show which is about to launch, and you find an actor coming on and talking about it. So you've got a new crime thriller coming up. Yeah. It's really interesting. So what's in it, and why should we watch it, and what's it all about, and all that stuff. They do the rounds. You could really get access to those. Remember, things are in lockdown right now. So maybe what you want to do is a show about podcasts. Podcasters already talk to podcasters. That's a thing. It's part of the ecosystem of it. But maybe you can find something amongst those people, or people that are broadcasting, or people that are already out there in the proper media broadcasting world, and get access to them about what they've got coming up. Would they want to talk to you? Well, maybe not on the normal list of people they'd want to talk to, but right now they're desperate. Right now, anybody who will be able to spread the word and get more people watching the up-and-coming Netflix series or whatever it is they've got is a fair game. So it's worthwhile looking at that. Number 3 is this. The latest music album releases. Remember, people are still producing content. People aren't going on concert. They aren't going on tour unless it's socially distanced, which is not cost effective, but they're still writing great material. So maybe you can do interviews with some of the big names, because otherwise they only will do interviews with conventional press. They can't do the Seth Meyers show, or maybe a handful of them can, and so on. But there's so many musicians. If you've got a certain type of music, a genre that you like, you can get access to some people, some especially the older people that have been around, because you don't need to see them face to face. You can be based in any country around the world, and you can still get them on your show via Zoom. Fascinating opportunities. All right, then, number 4, politics. It might not be something that interests you. I would say now that the TV late night talk show hosts are probably my favorite critics of politics, because they make it all into a bit of a joke. So therefore, it takes the pressure off you having to cry because you're busy laughing, which turns you into laughing and crying at the same time. But politics might be something you want to take seriously, or it might be something you want to take for humor. You might want to throw it in or throw it away. Be very careful, though. When you start talking about politics, you will alienate some people. You make some people hate you, make some people love you, and it doesn't have to be part of the conversation. And also be very aware that, especially if you talk about American politics or British politics, you've got a very polarized audience. Some people are left, some people are right, and because of a system, the way it's been run for the last couple of years, you're not allowed to be on either side. You can be one or the other, but that's not real life. The problem is, the way that the politics has gone has forced you to choose a side. Most people are kind of in the middle, some like that, some like that. Don't be scared to take your own views out there, but be very aware the minute you share them with people, people will think of you as being something that possibly you're not. One of my favorite comedians is Jonathan Pye, a guy called Tom Sawyer. You need to look him up. He's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. He plays this character who starts doing a TV show and goes, yeah, okay, and then he gives you a rant in front of the camera, and then he goes back to being a reporter. Really incisive observations. And it's become a phenomenon for the guy. Tom was basically an unemployed actor, created this character, and now he's a global phenomenon, doing stand-up comedy and being on shows and everything. Worth looking into it, because somewhere out there, that might be the way that you want to move forward. And it's worth experimenting, and it is a work in progress, so don't worry if it doesn't come to you immediately. Okay, so that was number 4, politics. Number 5 is magical makeovers. Now, the influencers have kind of got this done. New makeup, new dress sense, all the rest of it, before and after looks. But it doesn't mean that it's all tied up. Think about it. Right now, so much fashion is just sitting on the floor. People aren't going shopping the same way, and if you do go shopping, what are you going to dress up for? Where are you going to go with it? Are you going to do it so you can Zoom call better? Well, if that's the case, you don't need anything below the waist. I do have stuff below the waist. It's too much information. Stop thinking about what I said if you're still in shock about what I talked about with Mel Train and the dance group I was in earlier in the show. Forgotten? Good. Let's move on. So, magical makeovers before and after, that could be anything from losing weight as well as getting your makeup done so you look, and I go, That's the kind of thing you're doing. And it doesn't matter how big or how small you do it or what particular niche you're looking at, there's always people fascinated by it and really like it. Tasty recipes. Another great opportunity. How do you make your food? How do you create it? A smarter plan even for you to do it. And you can sell your recipes, you can sell your cooking courses. If you are running, this is a tip, a freebie. If you have a restaurant or a cafe and you are a chef or have a chef, you could do a show with that chef, with your special of the day, every day or every other day, and drive the business to your restaurant. Does that mean people are going to sit down? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But if you have a delivery service, they can order the food based on watching you, and they get a loyalty and a relationship with you that you could never get before. Instead of waiting for them to come to you, you can come to them. And you already have a database, or you can create it through Google advertising for people who know you and like you. Why wouldn't they want to do that? Number 7 is, who's your daddy? Now, this is a kind of cynical thing. Something in the UK, some of it's in the US, you may have it in your own country as well, where they basically try and work out through a blood test, is this your real father or not? Not is it your real mother, because they probably guessed because you know where you came from. But who's the father? Is it the guy over here or the guy over there? And they work it all out. They are very interesting shows. Personally, I find them a bit icky, but I know that thousands and millions and billions of people really love those kind of shows. Now, is that difficult for you to do? Possibly. But if you started doing a show all about the background of families and so on, there's lots of opportunities. Jerry Springer made a superstar out of himself just doing that. Dr. Phil, Maury, Povich, loads of people have got into that area. Number 8, oddities. Weird things that people wouldn't normally hear about or do. Guinness Book of Records is a perfect example. Have a look for Guinness Book of Records. You could even do a Guinness Book of Records show all about the things that people didn't know. You can find videos on YouTube which illustrates those records being done, and you can present them. Is it a weird show? Is it a bit strange and a bit different? Yes, it is, and that's exactly why you'd find an audience who don't want to see everything manufactured. They want something a little bit weird. How weird that gets is up to you. But by and large, as long as it's legal, there's an audience that loves it and would want to watch more. And if you've got 1,000 people, 5,000 people loving your stuff, that's all you need. You don't have to be huge. You can be a micro-influencer, monetize that relationship with them, and you're done. You've got a business that will work. Number 9, celebrity gossip. This is something I used to do a lot of before when I used to be on the radio, but I stopped doing it because I just eventually just woke up one morning and went, I don't care. I don't care who's married to who's doing what to whom, what happened to them. I don't care, but I know that billions of people do. The Kardashians, until it was stopped, I think they've kind of brought it to an end now, it was the most watched TV show around the world, recognized and turned them into huge global stars and billionaires and multi-millionaires just from having that incredible show. Selling perfume, selling fashion, selling anything they wanted to, just because people like celebrity gossip and they like it in variety TV styling. So does that mean that you should start sharing what's going on in your life to people? It's up to you how much you want to let people know. Every now and again, my daughter Maya comes into the show and you can see her and she's beautiful and fun. My gorgeous wife Aziza, I very rarely bring her onto the show. Why? She doesn't want to be. So I don't talk about her that much because it's not something I really like to do. But there'll be lots of people who would like to know more because it's a kind of bird's eye view. Reality TV is like that. And there are lots of people who want to know more, not necessarily about me, but about anybody. They might want to know about you. So share it. Not everything if you don't feel comfortable, but you've got to choose. Do you want to be a character or do you want to be the real you? These are the options that are available. Jonathan Pye isn't really the guy. The guy's called Tom Sawyer? I think it's Tom Sawyer. I keep thinking Huckleberry Finn. Anyway, the guy is Tom Hawker, I think he is. That's it. He is a completely different guy who's got a lot of things in common, but not the whole thing. Stephen Colbert wasn't Stephen Colbert. In the original shows, when he was on was he on? I can't remember. It wasn't Trevor Noah. He was on some other show, one of the late night TV shows. He was a character who was a very right-wing, almost ridiculous parody of all right-wing people. But in truth, he was doing it as a joke because he's very left-wing in real life, very liberal. So when he did his own show, that's the last thing he would do. But he looks exactly the same. It was a character. There's no reason why you can't start doing that. But just be careful because people won't pay that much attention. They'll see it and they'll think it's you. So be careful if you're going to do it as you. That's the skin that people will see you in. But if you do act it up and you do pretend to be somebody else, you can have a lot of fun being over the top and ridiculous. And people kind of love that. And number 10 is this. Memes and viral stories. Sharing stuff that people wouldn't necessarily have known about, but are kind of interesting. So what kind of videos could those be? It could be the trends. Things like when you're doing, I don't know, the cinnamon challenge. Let's do a show on the cinnamon challenge and we look at all the videos of people doing it. Let's do a show all about mannequin challenge. Let's do about virtual trends, all sorts of stuff. You do a YouTube show. Now, lots of people are doing those shows, but they're very popular. If you want to start your ball rolling, that's how you could do it. And in amongst all those different elements that you're adding, you could put your product. In fact, if you do it really smartly, you could sponsor your own show by your product. So people who go along could see it from you. So I won't go into this next section, the top 10 all-time hosts of TV talk shows, but that is again something you should look on liveabout.com. Fascinating, interesting, and next I'm going to take you by the hand and walk you into how you launch your show. Are you enjoying this? Is it useful for you? Getting a lot out of it? I really enjoy your company and your feedback. This is Speak on Stage. So here we are. We've seen Jack Canfield, and that's just a part of the interview that I did with Jack Canfield. I'd like to share with you now a couple of things that you need to be considering if you are looking at launching your own TV show. You don't have to be a talk show host, but ultimately talking is part of the deal. And you can have a set like these, you can buy these sets, you can make these sets, or you can get a green screen and make it so the set looks incredible and incredibly real. Think about the stuff you see on CNN and Fox and all these other shows, BBC. These aren't usually people with the people. Like for instance, when you see a guy in front of a newsroom, he's not usually in front of a newsroom. What usually is actually happening is he's in front of a green screen and behind him is superimposed a newsroom. Because those guys don't come around and hand him something, they're just busy in the background, but that's the kind of way that they put it together. And it's fascinating, and because you haven't noticed it, means it works. And more people are doing this on a daily basis. So that's a great way to start it, making it look like a big show with very little actual production value involved in it. All right, so first of all, what you've got to do is build your brand and your reputation. It's kind of chicken and egg. You start talking about who you are, and people will start saying, wow, that's amazing, and I love what you do, and I want to see more of what you do. And then you start creating that relationship with them. But work it out. I mean, I talk about branding all the time, and this is really about creating that personal brand. Who are you? What do you represent? What do people think of you? What do you want people to think of you? And how can you grow your reputation so people are proud to be connected to you? These are the elements that you should be considering when putting together your own show or putting together the personality that you exist as you start broadcasting into your own show. Then number 2, create the show. But as you create the show, think about a couple of elements. Which market are you going to service? Who are you going to bring it out to? What kind of format? What style? And of course, you're going to think about this. What kind of platform do you want to broadcast onto? Are you going to put it onto Facebook? Are you going to Instagram? Are you going to put it onto LinkedIn? Is it just going to be a YouTube show? Is it going to be live? Is it going to be recorded? Is it going to be 5 minutes long? Is it going to be a 30-second thing? Now, the thing is about using social media is most social media responds best for big numbers the shorter the clip. I know that when I'm doing a 90-minute show, if people haven't caught it live, or a 60-minute show, if people haven't caught it live, they probably won't have time at work to invest in not doing anything else but watching this show. But that's not necessarily my target audience. My target audience might be to produce the content, make a podcast out of it, and then later on chop the bits up to make little viral videos. So for instance, when I talk about how to make your show, this section here, that could be a section on its own. The bit in Jack Canfield, that could be a section on its own. The bit when I used to be a Chippendale, that's a section on its own. They can be repurposed and used later on. So it's an investment in creating the content that I can revisit at a later stage. You don't necessarily have to burn it all on one. And as for platforms, I put it across all the platforms. Number 3, create a vehicle that will interest influential people to want to appear on it. So if you're creating a show, you want to make sure that the show is fascinating and interesting, that people of note and influence will say, yeah, I'd like to be on that show. I know for a fact when I turn around to people and say, look, I'm doing a show, it goes on Instagram, it goes on to Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Periscope and Twitter simultaneously, and Twitch as well, by the way. If you're a fan of Twitch, you'll see it on there. And it reaches 1,000 people to 2,000 people every single day. But then we also do replays and so on. At this stage, this is something that many people turn around to and say, you know what, that's not bad. Right now, I'm reaching nobody. And if you say it's going to grow and it's going to get bigger, now the thing is, if you're starting on this whole journey, you'll start off with rubbish numbers, but that's not the point. Don't think about it about the vanity metrics. If you just put a picture of something that's really rude or something that's shocking or offensive, you'll get loads and loads of people paying attention to it, but it won't lead back to you and you won't be able to monetize it. This is about creating a TV show in a genre where there are no web TV shows or very few live ones going out there. Am I doing it differently to everybody else? Yes, I am. Am I doing it strange and that I'm not like anybody else? Well, yeah, I'm kind of on my own. I know a handful of people that are doing the same kind of thing, but that will change. Remember, podcasts didn't used to have anybody doing them. Now there's millions, maybe even a billion, no, not a billion, but there's certainly tens of millions of people creating their podcasts. So you are just a pioneer. Don't be scared, just go for it. Number 4, get sponsors, create a marketing plan, and also a timetable. If you really want to turn it into a business, you have to think like this. This is a business. The next thing that I'm going to be wheeling out onto this show is sponsorship. There will be advertising. Not necessarily advertising that takes you away from watching and enjoying the show, but I can just say brought to you by. Brought to you by some kind of cigar. I won't say cigar, but I won't use those kind of advertisers. It's got to be something that ethically works for me. But it also has to be something that you feel as a viewer really works for you as well. If I could turn around and say, you know, I've got a business community that I reach with these shows, and I share with them really great ways of marketing. So there's entrepreneurs, there's people in advertising, sales, and so on, and education who watch this. People who are speakers, people who are producing content, lots of media people. Somebody is going to say, that's my target audience, but I don't want to create a TV show. I haven't got the resources or the time or the inclination, or I'm too shy. So what I'll do is I'll piggyback off your show. How much do you want? And that's how you build it. Okay, number 5, spread the word to influencers, managers, agencies, and platforms. Let everybody know that you exist. All these different types of organizations will want to know how they can do business with you if you get to a high level. Some will, some won't. It's basically, it's a suck it and see exercise. Contact a ton of people. Most will say no, but one will say yes. If your mindset is all about the fact that you recognize that if you ask 100 people and one says yes and everyone says no, that's a yes, then you will love the opportunities of doing this now. Think about how many people got marketing budgets that they're not using because there's no point doing any advertising because people aren't out. If they're not going to put stuff on billboards because people aren't driving around, they're still in lockdown, they want something that will reach people. Otherwise, in many cases, the marketing team will lose that budget because the procurement department or the accounting department will turn around and say, right, you can't have it next year because you didn't spend it this year. They're looking for something to spend it on. So work out who the potential sponsors are, make a vehicle, make a battle plan for them to spend money with you. And they will love it and they will do it. All right, number 6, get some impressive interviews done, and they don't have to be superstars. It's true. I mean, we're talking about a global market now. And the thing about a global market, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to know everybody that you see. How many times have you watched a TV show or you've seen an interview with somebody who's fascinating, but you had no idea who they were or what they'd done until they did that thing? For many actors, if you're not a first-name basis with your fans who love you like Justin Bieber or anybody else, not an actor necessarily, but you know what I'm talking about, it doesn't matter. When you say a great movie, you look at it, you say, that's a great movie. Maybe an initial star on the headline was the one that brought you in, but the rest of the actors you might not recognize at all, but you will after that. So don't worry about the fact that people don't know you or don't know your name. They will do if you're doing it consistently. And this is the key. As often as you can, get it out there. Number 7, share it everywhere and raise the bar all the time. 2 factors you should think about. Less is more and bigger is better. Now, they seem to be two things that are in conflict to each other, but not really. Less is more means simply that if you can do something that's simple and short and sweet, and you leave people wanting more because you didn't overstay your welcome, then you'll have more people wanting to come to you next time. And bigger is generally better, because if you can make it big and you can share with people how big it can be, people can then feel inspired to do more with it, and they'll have more bragging rights to tell other people to come and watch your show as well. Does that make sense? Yes, thank you. Number 8, there are 6 audiences to consider, and I'll move my head slightly to show you exactly what I'm talking about with this. When you're doing a talk show, there's 6 audiences. Let me explain this for you. There's you to you. In your own head, what am I doing with this show? There's you to your guest. You've got to get the right format to keep them happy. There's you to your audience, if you're doing it in a studio. So you are speaking in your own head to your guest, knowing there's an impact on your audience. There's also the agencies that are watching, who are getting your guest in. They're also looking at marketing the show. They need to make sure it's all there and running properly. You've got the potential sponsors who want to throw money at the show as well. And then last and not least, I'll be my head here, you can see viewers, the people at home watching the show. So when you're talking, you're not talking to you. You're talking to a number of different people, and you do not want to annoy anybody. That's why sometimes doing a show that's got lots of swearing in, or has got a real edge to it, might not be if you want to get a general audience. General audiences are good, but the problem is in the middle ground, that's where your competition is, more than anything. If you do something on the far left or far right or far high or far low, then you're going to get a ton of people who love and swear by it, but it might be a very niche audience. You're looking for 1,000 to 5,000 who will monetize for you. Now, I know when you're looking at the likes of, YouTube, well, some people got millions. Yeah, they have got millions. It doesn't mean that you need millions to be effective. You just need to have people who love your stuff and will buy your stuff, and then you can make a living out of it, or make a side hustle out of it, which is great as well. In many cases, you're not actually looking to start your business as this. You're looking to cobble it on the side of your business, talking about what you love, so you don't have to pay for the Google ads or the Facebook ads or whatever kind of billboard advertising it would take to get an audience. They see your show, they love you, they know, like, and trust you, and they want to spend money on you. Why? Because they've seen what you do. You're an expert, and they love that. Okay, number 9 is do seasons strategically. Announcing, leveraging, and growing your audiences. Seasons are when you do them in blocks. I'm still in season 1 of this show. Now, why is that? Why haven't I stopped it and called a day on episode 25 or wherever it said no more of this show? Well, very simply, because of the fact that I'm experimenting. I want to see how far this goes until I take a natural break. But I will take a natural break. I wanted to get my learning curve to be as fast and as powerful as it could be. So I've got lots of people saying, I'm starting a podcast or I'm starting a TV show, Dave. I'm going to do 1 a month or 1 a week. I'm going to start it in the new year. I'm saying, why? I started doing a show every day. I'm at episode 81 with this show, and my learning curve has been super high. If I look back at my earlier shows, most of them were terrible. But they were still terrible when nobody else was doing anything. So they were better than zero. Like the phrase, and I don't mean disrespect with this, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Why? Because nobody else can do anything. Even if you can't see as well as with 2 eyes, you can still navigate. And that's the key to getting your feet in the water, get your toes wet, and start making your show. Does that make sense? Good. Last but not least, hire production and sales marketing teams to upgrade you. There you go, I just do move my head a little bit. So you might not be able to do all the things that it takes. It is challenging, it is difficult to make sure you produce all this incredible content, but you might want to elevate it, but you're so busy working your show. So don't worry about that, get somebody to do it for you. Sponsorship will pay. If not, then you pay or do a deal on commission for when the sponsorship does come in, then they are actually working with you. All right, number 11, review, reinvent, add, polish ruthlessly every single show. There are so many elements to this show that I change on a daily basis. Every time I do it, I go back and I change it and I add something else that maybe I haven't seen or hadn't thought about. And that's what I have to work on. And why is it so important? Because if I don't do that, then people can catch up. And also, I want to be producing a really good quality show. I want to show that by the end of it, you could show on proper TV without them saying, oh, bless, nice effort. No, forget nice effort, forget, oh, bless. I want this to be the same kind of standard as you can get on proper TV. Is it that? Yes, no, it's not. But then again, my objective isn't that. My objective is not to be a late night talk show host. My objective is to talk about the stuff that I want to talk about. Speaking, marketing, positioning yourself, growing your business, growing your industry, and being able to get your brand out to people so they spend money with you. That would be a very niche show. That would be like Duck Dynasty if I had a lot of production on it. I don't need a lot of production. I just need to have me and you and this camera in front of me and a couple of laptops which do all the heavy lifting. So there you go. I'll move my head slightly to one side so you can do this. Excuse me. And I'll sneeze a little bit as well. But it didn't go on the screen, so that's kind of all right. So there you go. You can take a screenshot of that. If you haven't taken a screenshot, then you have missed it. And you know what? I gave you a chance, but you didn't get your chance and you didn't take it. And that's what life's truly all about. Grab and seize the moment. It's Speak on Stage. Love your thoughts, love your comments. Thank you so much for being with me all the way through. And I hope this has been a useful show for you. Loads of content, loads of interesting stuff deliberately. Now, if you want to see how powerful you could be with your own personal brand for free, you can do a survey. Go to SpeakOnstage.com, which is one of my websites. You'll see this when you arrive, which is me looking windswept and interesting. And I think if I go like that... No, I can't quite pick my nose, can't quite reach, but it would be funny. So you go to this and you click on the industry icon button, which is here. There you go. You click on that. You press the gold button at the top. You then go through to a new page, which I've mentioned, which is here. And then you click on the survey button and you get a 2021 question survey all about how your brand can grow and the ways that you can do something about it. If you then decide you want to work with me on the Industry Icon program, then contact me directly. We'll have a chat. I've got a number of people I'm talking to today and tomorrow and the next day. It's really busy heading up to the Christmas time as well. So book it. If not, if you're thinking, right, I don't know if I'm ready yet, that's fine as well. Go to Speak on Stage and maybe it's time to learn to be a speaker. There's never been a better time to get yourself out there. We are still predominantly, as a planet, in lockdown. Some people are coming out, some people go back in. There's lots of changes that are happening all the time, but now is that magic time before everyone emerges and starts getting back into stuff. You can grow and grab that audience. Whether you want to do it to travel the world for free when you're a speaker later on, I've got a big event coming up, which I'll share with you on the next show that I do, which is at GITEX. And there are going to be thousands of people all learning about the latest tech. I'm going to be hosting for a couple of days of that, maybe even the whole thing. So the gigs are coming back in certain countries. You want to make sure that when that happens in your country, you're ready. And there's a better chance of people paying you good money and people hiring you and getting you along to talk about what you know and you love if they've seen your show. Seriously. And it doesn't matter what your industry you're in. Every industry is valid. Whether you're making pizzas, you're drinking juices and you collect all the bottles, there's going to be something weird and wonderful that you can monetize and do a lot with. So don't be worried. If it's too weird, then you might only get smaller opportunities, but you need to be relatively mainstream. Your subject doesn't. That makes sense to you? Fantastic. Right, next up, what we're going to do, summarize everything, and then I've got something special. But before we do that, let me show you a little glimpse of what happens. When you're working with me with the Industry Icon program or the Meyers mentorship program, then we create hurdles for you, challenges for you. We work up here, what's your future? What kind of speaker? What kind of business do you want to have? Who do you want to reach? When do you want it by? What's the best route to go there? We also look at then creating business events and looking at the existing calendar and potential activities that you can generate or tap into. When you have social change, your ability to talk and be part of that's important, and then you can generate stuff yourself. Loads of different things you can do, and that's all part of this coaching program. It's the Industry Icon program. Contact me directly if you'd like to know how to do that. It covers everything from speaking, and you might say, I'm already a great speaker. Trust me, you're not a great marketer. You're not a great brand, and sometimes you need to have somebody who's not you looking at it to really make it effective. Does that make sense to you? Good. I'm glad to see that. Speak on Stage, and that's the Industry Icon program. So there we are. It's been a long old show, but I hope you've enjoyed it. Loads of there to digest and chew on. If you joined me earlier, then you would see the whole thing. But if you just joined me in the last kind of part of it, then you're thinking, what did I miss? Well, on whichever platform you are, Don't miss it again. Subscribe, follow, befriend me, whatever it takes to make sure that you get the early alerts when I broadcast live. And I do broadcast across LinkedIn, across Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter, and Twitch. And we put the stuff on Instagram later, because Instagram's not friendly. It's not. I know you love Instagram, but when you try and broadcast, it goes, no, I'm not playing. You say, take my feed. No, I don't want to. I'm special. I do it on my own. I'm not doing it to anybody else. So that's what happens. It's a bit challenging, but hey, life can be. So consider making your own TV show, your own talk show. It's one of those things that when you put it together, you could end up with incredible guests. Imagine how wonderful it would be if you could do a show that looks like this. That's what you want to create. That's what you want to have. You want to have an audience that loves you, and you want to be able to get your brand and your products out to as many people as possible just by being you. That's the key to it. I hope you enjoy the show. I'm going to play you out with a video called Fair Play, one of my favorite ones, all about the possibilities that face us in life and the fact that if you can push yourself and you can challenge yourself, you can be an incredible success. Love having your thoughts and your comments. As of today, happy Thanksgiving. As of today, enjoy your Black Friday goodies. And as of, if you're watching this at a later time, then just stay safe, look after yourself. My name is Dave Crane. It's been a pleasure sharing this content with you. I look forward to seeing you soon on Speak on Stage. I'm sorry. I didn't explain. I tried to motivate you and move you forward, but quite clearly all I brought you was pain. Tried to share some ideas and I didn't do enough to show you what I really meant, because it left you feeling confused, and afterwards your brain was spent. And I should have used smaller words, and I should have been more than enough, but somehow it ended up making you feel bad, and it was kind of tough, and you wanted to have me stop and go back again, and maybe you weren't paying attention, and then you feel like you've stayed at school and you've been naughty and you're in detention, and you want to get me sharing with you more stuff, and I gotta do more for you. And you don't want to pay for it because, you know, I could get this off the internet too. But my friend told me this, and, you know, they're into the same kind of stuff as you, but I don't see why I should pay or I should make the effort, because I want it to come in a bottle as well. And if I get it in a bottle, I get it in a pill form, I'll never have to do much work. But it doesn't work that way. None of it does. If you want to get something out of life, you've got to get off your ass and move. You've got to look around and see where you've come from. You've got to make a decision. Where are you going to go? And how do you think they get there, all those stars? How do you think they get there, all those people who turn around and say, I'm amazing, I'm a Kardashian, I'm on the front of a newspaper, I'm on the front of a website, I'm an influencer, I'm a celebrity, I'm super rich, I'm super powerful. Do you think they all got it for free? Well, some did, and some didn't. Some worked their asses off, and some still do. And some people wait, and some people complain, and we don't realize how easy it is, and that might be you. One day won't matter, we'll have no time left, and people will say to you, did it matter to you how hard you worked? How many people helped you? And the answer will be no. All that matters is, what did I get out of it? And the best way to judge is that smile you have right now, or that frown that won't go away. It's your choice. It's your life. And for me, yeah, I'm gonna play.